Conference Committee report on House Law number 1370, an act relating to public safety. The report is addressed to the Honorable Melissa Hortman, Speaker of the House, the Honorable Bobby Joe Champion, President of the Senate. We, the undersigned conferees for House Law number 1370, report that we have agreed upon the items in dispute and recommend as follows. The report is signed by 2 out of the 3 members on the part of the House and 3 out of 3 members on the part of the Senate. Stevenson moves that the report of the Conference Committee on House File number 1370 be adopted and that the bill be repassed as amended by the Conference Committee.
I recognize the author, the member from Anoka, Representative Stevenson, who will explain the report.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The conference report on this bill includes the deepfake language that had been previously passed by the House with very minor modifications, but we also did add into the conference report the age-appropriate design language that passed the House as part of the Commerce Omnibus. I ask for members to support a motion to adopt the conference report.
There is a motion at the desk. The clerk will report the motion.
Farr moves that the House refuse to adopt the Conference Committee report on House Law number 1370 and that the bill be returned to the Conference Committee.
I recognize the maker of the motion, the member from LeSueur, Representative Farr, to explain your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That is my motion. I request the roll call.
Representative Farr has requested a roll call. Seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call on his motion. Representative Farr.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, had the opportunity to sit in the conference committee and agree with Chair Stevenson's comments on the deepfake bill. But the age-appropriate design code was not heard in the Senate floor and was not passed in the House Commerce Conference Committee. Was not adopted there. And so I think there's some work to be done there. And while I appreciate the comments that were made yesterday in the committee saying that we would continue to work on this, I think we've got well over a week of session left. I would ask that we take this back and get it right, because it creates many new definitions and requirements regarding data and personal data. And it creates some difficulties for compliance and will require gathering and maintaining of significant personal data. And so I think we need to take a look at that and get that corrected, because Minnesota doesn't have an underlying data privacy law that's or a specific enforcement agency for this, and we're going to rely on the AG's office to take care of this. And I'd like to take it back to conference and get this right, Mr. Speaker. That's my motion.
Further discussion on Representative Farr's motion to refuse to adopt the Conference Committee report. I recognize the member from Carver, Representative Nash.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would wholeheartedly encourage a vote to re-refer. The reason the deepfake bill, I think we all voted for it, and I voted for it as well, but the age-appropriate design code is not even in the same chapter of law. It is not, and I think that trying to tuck it in at the last minute in conference is really kind of a stretch at best. There are some things that weren't even worked out in the Senate, and then you just dropped it in last minute. I think that is well over your skis, Representative Stevenson, and I have known you to be more thorough than that. When we have tried to do things in the past, when we were still fighting for the liquor bill, and I encouraged us to maybe, I believe my words were, helicopter something in. You said, no, I won't do that. And now we have seen that you're doing that. Very disappointing. I think that it is a mistake. The age-appropriate design is an issue that is still being worked out, does not have unanimous buy-in from all people here even on your side of the aisle in the Senate. Not sure why you had to skip your own major committee bill and then put it into this other bill. You didn't even have full buy-in from your conferees in the Commerce bill. You chose not to put it in, but now you're here with this bill. And I agree with Representative Farr, this should not move forward. You have plenty of time left, and you know that better than anybody else. A handful of days here in the tail end of session is a lot of time. You can take this back to committee, fix it and make it so that your deepfake bill, which a lot of us support and have spoken in favor of, is not tainted by this.
Further discussion to the motion. I recognize the member from Stearns, Representative O'Driscoll.
Well, members, here we go again. We have debated on this floor hour after hour after hour this session about germaneness and whether things belong in bills through amendments, and guess what happens? Comes back from conference committee with a little baby born in there that was in another bill. We couldn't get it done. So what are we going to do? We're going to drop that one off at the door in the bill that unanimously passed, or pretty close to unanimously passed, off the House floor. Representative Farr, Representative Nash, I think we have a chance on this because we know how important it is for germaneness and the appropriateness and titling of bills to the majority party, that I fully expect that that board is going to be agreeing with everybody on here to do the right thing. So let's get a chance to see what's going to happen here in just a matter of moments, ladies and gentlemen. Stand by.
Further discussion to Representative Farr's motion. I recognize the maker of the motion, Representative Farr.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That is my motion. I ask for a green vote.
The clerk will take the roll on Representative Farr's motion to refuse to adopt the Conference Committee report for House File 1370. The clerk will close the roll. There being 58 ayes and 70 nays, the motion does not prevail and is not adopted. Members, we are now on discussion of the Conference Committee report. Is there any discussion before we vote on adopting the Conference Committee report on House File 1370? All those in favor? I recognize the member from Chisago, Representative New Brindley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I know that, frankly, I mean, we've already discussed the problems here. We've just had two completely unrelated items thrown into a bill for political purposes. This is how things happen now at the end of session when we don't have transparency. This is what the people in charge do. They take two completely unrelated things that can't get agreement in other areas, but they got to close that up. So we're just going to pluck this out of one spot and dump it into another, having completely nothing to do with each other. These are completely unrelated bills, but here we are, hearing them again. And it's incredibly frustrating, especially when we have a bill like the deepfake bill that is pretty widely supported. I think everyone in this chamber voted for the deepfake bill. And I also think that half this chamber voted against the age-appropriate design code bill. And there's really good reason for that. It's a bad bill. It's constructed poorly. The reality is, many of us actually agree with the foundation of the problem, right? I've got teenagers, many of us have kids, and we are really concerned about what is happening online. Several of us signed on to a different bill that frankly was constructed much better and would have done a much better job without the constitutional issues that this bill has to address the problem. But as I looked at as I looked at this bill, it appears that nothing has really changed. The only thing that's changed, I'm trying to pull it up, is this new language that nothing in this chapter may be interpreted to impose liability in a manner that is inconsistent with United States Code Title 47, Section 230, or otherwise infringe on the established rights and freedoms of children. It's the only thing that changed in this bill. The construction of the bill has not changed. The problem that, this is being put forward along with the UK and the state of California, both of whom, both entities have individuals who would oversee this program. And in Minnesota, we will just be giving that authority to the Attorney General's office, which, boy, we have loved to do this entire session. The Attorney General in the state of Minnesota is going to be one of the most powerful people in the state of Minnesota following this legislative session. Hugely problematic. But we haven't given him the rulemaking authority to go with it. This bill is still constructed poorly. It doesn't do what you're getting at. And, we had an entire discussion one day on the elections bill on foreign influence in our elections. This is the second bill now, actually maybe the third. We found another one where the language that the Democrats proposed was model language from somewhere else. But this one certainly, this isn't just foreign influence in elections. This is literally language directly from the UK. This did not originate here. This is directly being imported from foreign entities. It's amazing. Again, it's unfortunate what the Democrats are doing. The Democrats are taking completely unrelated issues, plopping them together in gamesmanship, with a lack of transparency, literally without any Republican input whatsoever. And I want to be very clear about that, what that means, because frankly, the 64 of us over here on this side of the aisle, you don't have to care about what we think. I get that. I get that, I assure you. However, you should care about what my 40,000 constituents think. You should care what the 48% of Minnesotans think that were elected by us. That viewpoint should be considered in what you do. But it has been completely ignored. And instead, we take a very bipartisan issue that everybody agrees with, we lump it together with, frankly, a piece of garbage. It's not ready for prime time. This will not be implemented properly in the state of Minnesota because it can't. You haven't even given the tools in the bill language for it to be able to do so. It's silliness. It's nonsense. What we should have done is sent this back and fixed it. But instead, and in fact, this is what we heard. We heard that on the Senate side that there have been assurances that we know that it's a problem, but we're going to fix it next year. We promise. We promise we'll fix it next year. Folks, when we pass things off the House floor, it should be ready for prime time. When we pass things off the House floor, it is because we believe they are ready to become law. We should not pass things off the House floor with the intention of fixing it next year when it's already law. Guess what? Newsflash, you'll still be in charge next year. I'm not sure if you're aware, but you've got another year and a half to do whatever the heck you want. So why don't you choose to do it right? Why don't you choose to take your time and do it right? Why don't you choose to take the time and at least have a conversation with the other half of the state that thinks what you're doing is kind of problematic? This is arrogant. It's arrogant, it's irresponsible, and it's just not good lawmaking. Like, just do the work. Do the work you were called here to do. Do the work. Make it right. I've told a lot of people this year. I get it. The Democrats in the House chamber have been passing their ideological bills for the last 4 years. I get that. I've always understood it. But I always believed that if your ideological bills were actually going to become law, you would fix them. And you would at least make sure that the words on the page worked. That you would at least make sure that the laws you were passing could be implemented. You would at least make sure that the laws you're passing would stand up to legal scrutiny, constitutional scrutiny. But you don't bother. It's been shocking, actually, that bill after bill after bill, and we tell you, here are the lawsuits that are coming. You don't care. That's all right. We're going to pass it anyway. Don't worry. We'll just fix it next year. Folks, none of us are buying it. You're not fixing anything. There's going to be lawsuits. You're going to be challenged. You don't have the tools in place to actually even implement this. Just fix your stuff. Vote no, fix your stuff.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Daimler, state your point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to a point of order under the Joint Rules 2.06. It says, in all cases of disagreement between the Senate and the House on amendments adopted by either House to a bill, memorial, resolution passed by the other House, a conference committee consisting of not less than 3 members, nor more than 5 members from each House may be requested. It goes on to say that a conference committee report must be limited to provisions that are germane to the bill and amendments that were referred to the conference committee. A provision is not germane if it relates to a substantially different subject or is intended to accomplish a substantially different purpose from that of the bill. And Mr. Speaker, the addition of the age-appropriate design in House File 1370 is not germane. I would ask that you would find this point of order well taken, and I will request a roll call.
Representative Damoth, we don't do a roll call on points of order. Is there any advice for Representative Damoth's point of order? I recognize the member from Anoka, Representative Stevenson.
Mr. Speaker, advice. My advice is, first of all, I would note under the rules of the House, Rule 6.4, it says that a conference committee report may include only subject matter that's similar to what was just read. It goes on to say, or like subject matter contained in a bill passed by the House or the Senate. The age-appropriate design material was passed as part of the Commerce Budget Bill. It is like subject matter to the deepfake bill. Both of these deal with the potential harms that large and advanced technology can have on people in society, and particularly children, which is why the bills make sense to be paired together. So I would ask that you find Leader Damoth's point of order not well taken.
Mr. Speaker, advice?
Representative Nash.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, we have gone down this road before, and I talked about my least favorite baseball umpire, Angel Hernandez. You're now trying to expand the strike zone heavily when you have in times past said, no, it has to be in the exact same chapter and subchapter of law, and you ruled us out of order. That was after you ruled that it was in order, and then you came back and ruled it out of order. So I was going to talk about this on third reading, but I'm going to share it right now. If you grew up on Sesame Street like I did, you might remember the song, "One of these things is not like the other." So the lyrics are, one of these things is not like the others. One of these things just doesn't belong. Can you tell which thing is not like the others by the time I finish my song? So the chapters of law are completely different. They're not even adjacent to each other. But under the DFL germaneness paradigm, you will just say, well, as long as it's sort of in the neighborhood. And that's like saying, if I'm in the neighborhood in Waconia, you're considering that I'm just about to drop in on Leader Damoth in her neighborhood. Apparently, that's how close you view these things. Members, one of these things is not like the others. I mean, if you can hear the jingle in your head, go ahead. One of these things is not, Mr. Speaker, this is mostly for you, because you're about to make a ruling. This is not like the deepfake bill. And Chair Stevenson, you have a bill that we all supported earlier. I am not supporting it if you don't strip this out. And just because the age-appropriate design code got orphaned in your committee and someone appealed to you to stick it into a bill that it really doesn't belong into, I'm going to invoke once again the conversation that you and I had, I think it was 2 years ago, when I said we should really find a home for some of these free the growler pieces of legislation. You said, no, Jim, I'm not going to do that. And I said, well, you know what? I will honor that because you're sticking to your word and because you're trying to be you're going to honor what it should be going on here, which is an institutional behavior of not putting something that is completely unrelated into it. But today, mark that down, May 12th, once again, the Angel Hernandez strike zone has come to bear. It is now going to be completely outside. And I just think that Minnesotans should watch. Minnesotans should know that you put something that is not ready to move out. It's going to create a patchwork across the U.S. It's problematic, so problematic that you, Mr. Chair, decided not to put it into your commerce bill when you had an opportunity to. And then you blinked. So again, one of these things is not like the other. So my advice, Mr. Speaker, is that you find Representative Damas' point of order well taken. Thank you.
Members, I have considered advice from Representative Damas, Representative Nash, and Representative Stevenson. I have reviewed the report. I have also reviewed House Rule 5.05, and I find that the point of order is not well taken.
Mr. Speaker, I appeal the ruling of the Speaker, and I do request the roll call.
Representative Damas requests an appeal of the ruling of the Speaker, and now is the perfect time to request a roll call vote. And seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call vote. Discussion to your appeal on the ruling of the Speaker, Representative Damas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As we have been having conversations about germaneness in this chamber for the entire session, we have been challenged. There's been a time that the Speaker has put it before the body, that the Speaker has overturned, and then we have lost on that. This is not an area that we want to lose. And it's not about just which side is going to win. It's about doing the right thing for Minnesotans. We cannot put a section of law into a conference committee and accept that when you know there was unanimous or near unanimous report on the underlying deepfake language. That is the right thing to do for Minnesotans. I know that you, Mr. Speaker, are going to be hearing from a number of my colleagues as we point out why this is germane and why we would request you to overturn this ruling. But again, Mr. Speaker, as you're making that decision, do what's right for Minnesota. Do what's right as we're accepting a conference committee report. Send it back to conference, and I ask again that you would take this information and make the right decision in the chamber today.
Is there any further discussion to Representative Damas' appeal to the ruling of the Speaker? I recognize the member from Chisago, Representative New Brindley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would Chair Stevenson stand for a question?
He will yield to a question, Representative New Brindley.
Thank you. Representative Stevenson, can you just let us know which committees the age-appropriate design code bill was heard in?
I recognize the member from Anoka, Representative Stevenson.
Mr. Speaker, Representative New Brindley, it was heard in the Commerce Committee, and I believe it was heard in the Judiciary Committee. And I'm looking at the chair of the Judiciary Committee, who just gave me a thumbs up, so it was heard in the Judiciary Committee.
Representative New Brindley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And would Representative Stevenson yield for another question?
Representative Stevenson will yield to another question, Representative New Brindley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Representative Stevenson, can you let us know which committees the deepfake bill was heard in?
The member from Anoka, Representative Stevenson.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Representative New Brindley. That bill was also heard in the Judiciary Committee, and I'm getting another thumbs up. And then, but I remember that one because it was my bill. And it was also heard in Public Safety and Elections.
The member from Chisago, Representative New Brindley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And frankly, my point was just made. The deepfake bill started out in the Public Safety Committee. It started in the Elections Committee. It is under the jurisdiction of the Elections Committee. That's the deepfake bill. That means its primary subject matter started out in the jurisdiction of the Elections Committee. And then it was also heard in public safety and judiciary. Frankly, almost every bill goes through judiciary for something or another. The age-appropriate design code bill, however, is under the jurisdiction of the Commerce Committee. These bills are so different that they're not even under the same committee of jurisdiction, let alone the same chapter of law or same subject matter. I mean, come on, you guys, this is so ridiculous. You've got a week and a half to get your work done. Frankly, you got a year and a half, because again, you guys are still in charge, newsflash. But instead, you're gonna play around with the rules like this? These are not even in the same committee of jurisdiction. They have one overlapping committee stop out of 5. One overlapping committee stop. That again, here's almost every bill for something or another because it has something to do with data. You're saying that the data piece is the crux of these 2 bills? Come on. You make a mockery of this place. It's so absurd that you would argue that these 2 bills are substantially similar. It is absurd. There is no universe in which these bills belong coming out of the same conference report. And frankly, thank you, Representative Demuth, Leader Demuth. I hadn't even looked. I didn't even realize that this was going to happen. I actually was just talking about the fact that these bills do not resemble each other at all, and they were just plopped together because the Democrats can't figure out how else to get their work done. They can't figure out how to get their work done according to the rules that are in place to make sure we don't do stupid stuff. That's why those rules are in place. Those rules are in place to maintain order. They're in place to maintain transparency for the public. But the Democrats can't follow those rules, so they're just going to do it their way. And then when we call them out on it, they're going to say, well, clearly they're substantially similar. No overlap in the sections of law. They're not even out of the same committee of jurisdiction. This stuff is ridiculous, folks. Stop. You got a week and a half. Just fix your stuff. It's not that hard. Take your bills back and fix your stuff. Is this really how the last week and a half of session are going to go? This is really how we're going to play this game for the next week and a half? We're not even being difficult. We're coming in when you tell us to come in. We're not staying here for hours on this stuff. We're not even being difficult. All we're doing is asking you to follow the rules. All we're doing is saying, listen, make sure that your stuff is germane. Make sure that you got your crap together. It's not that hard. But instead, you are going to make us sit here and fight about this. Instead, you are going to try to convince the public, why no, of course, these are substantially similar. This is virtually the same thing. Get out of here. Come on. Like, this is nonsense, you guys. Just grow up and do your work. Do it right. It's not that hard. Figure out how to play nice in the sandbox. Go talk to your senators, whatever you need to do to get your work done. But doing this is just not right. It's just wrong. These rules are in place for a reason. They maintain order, they maintain transparency so that the public can know what the heck is going on down here. And you're just flaunting all of it. It's nonsense. I would implore you to overturn the ruling of the Speaker with a red vote.
Any further discussion to Representative Demuth's appeal to the ruling of the Speaker? I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Long.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would ask members to uphold the ruling of the Speaker. As Representative Stevenson pointed out correctly, the Rule 6.40 governs what is coming back in conference committees. And like subject matter is the test, that is a different test from germaneness. That is a different test from what we apply on the floor. As Representative Newbrinley helpfully pointed out, both bills were heard in the Judiciary Committee, which confirms that they have like subject matter, and both deal with harms from technology, as Representative Stevenson pointed out. And in the case there was any conflict, as the Speaker ruled under 5.05, conflict between joint and House rules, the Speaker's decisions govern, and I would ask that we uphold the ruling of the Speaker.
I recognize Representative Damath.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And you have heard our reasonings why we would encourage a vote to not uphold the ruling of the Speaker. As we go to that roll call vote, Mr. Speaker, would you please remind the body of what a red and a green vote mean? Members vote to not uphold the ruling of the Speaker.
A green vote upholds the ruling of the Speaker. A green or yes vote upholds the ruling of the Speaker, while a red or no vote appeals the ruling of the Speaker. Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll on the appeal of the ruling of the Speaker of Representative Damath's point of order. The clerk will close the roll. There being 70 ayes and 58 nays, it is the judgment of the House that the ruling of the Speaker shall stand. Members, we are now on discussion of the Conference Committee report of House File 1370. I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Elkins.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, while this bill builds upon legislation which was already passed in the UK and in California, this bill in its current form is a dramatic improvement over either of those existing laws. It's been well vetted not only by this body, but by national experts on the topic, all of whom are telling me that once this bill passes, it will be the model legislation that will be adopted by other states across the country. Thank you.
Further discussion to the further discussion to the Conference Committee report for House File 1370. There being no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion to adopt the Conference Committee report on House File 70, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. No! The motion prevails, and the clerk will give the bill its third reading as amended by conference.
House File number 1370, third reading, as amended by conference.
Third reading as amended by conference. Is there any further discussion? I recognize the member from Wright, Representative Hudson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I refrained from rising prior to now. As a co-author on the underlying bill prior to its being bastardized, I didn't want to engage in any of the theatricality regarding germaneness or rules. I find that boring. I think Minnesotans do as well. What I find interesting, educational, relevant, is the way in which this moment stands as an unfortunate affirmation of the cynicism I came here with in the first place. I'm a pretty cynical person by nature. And I try to be optimistic. And sometimes I see moments for hope, moments for optimism. I've talked about that before. Every once in a while you'll see times where we all come together, times where we have an all-green board, like we did on this bill when it passed out of this House on the floor. And those are good moments. Moments where I have side conversations with those of you on the other side, in the hallway, in the retiring room, and we're connecting. We're seeing things eye to eye. This really sets that back for me as a co-author on this bill. I feel like a sucker because I believed that I could be bipartisan. I was the only Republican who signed on to this bill in this chamber. Only one. And I was told that I shouldn't have. And I ignored it. I said, no, it's a good bill. It does good things. It's a proactive bill. This is something we should have came up with. Majority's ahead of the curve on this one. And I was actually pretty excited about it. But now it comes back with language that, despite the conversation we just had, the debate we just had, we all know, come on, we all know it's not germane. We all know one bill has nothing whatsoever to do with the other. We all know that if that bill could pass onto its own, you would have done it that way. Because as has been noted, you have the time. And of course, we all know, because we have it on record as part of the journal of this House, that everybody in this room supported the underlying bill before this happened. Uncontestable. And yet here we are. It's like you're trying to come up with ways to make things less agreeable. And for that reason, aside from just the underlying disagreement with the substance of the text that's been added, which, unlike the original bill, which was well thought out, well considered, well deliberated, what's been added to it is half-baked, not ready for prime time, unconstitutional, foreign-influenced. This is legislation that came to us from the European Union. We're somehow going to try to copy and paste into American jurisprudence. Not going to work. Spoiler alert. It's inexplicable to me why you would do that. So I'm going to be a no vote. I'm going to ask other members to vote no on this as well. And that's a shame, because the underlying bill prior to this conference committee was a good bill that had unanimous, universal support in this chamber. So, thanks.
Is there any further discussion to the conference committee report on House File 1370? I recognize the author, the member from Anoka, Representative Stevenson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is important legislation. Both the deepfakes legislation and the age-appropriate design legislation get at emerging problems that are critical to the state of Minnesota. I strongly urge its support, and I thank Representative Bonner for her good work on age-appropriate design.
The clerk will take the roll. The clerk will close the roll. There being 71 ayes and 57 nays, the bill is repassed as amended by conference and its title agreed to.